Hey everyone, it's Tommy Canale and welcome to Before the Lights podcast, the show to find out how those in sports, music, and entertainment made their mark. Please go check us out on the web, beforethelightspod.com. And if you have a couple minutes, go to Apple Podcast and rate and review the show, please. Follow us on Instagram at Before the Lights Pod. It's time to get this show started. Go get yourself a coffee or grab a drink. Tell your family, friends, neighbors, and you know the word, strangers. It's time to have an in-depth conversation with our guest. Today, we have the winner of Season 12 of Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen, the co-founder of ECM, known as Established Culinary Management and BLT Foods, a native of Woodstock, Illinois. He's also the executive chef at Lake Las Vegas. Please welcome in Chef Scott Cummings. Chef, how are you?
Hey, Tommy, great to have me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to go down your little culinary journey. And we're going to back up because you grew up on a dairy farm in Wisconsin with your parents. And let's start here, Chef. What did that teach you in regards to work ethic, and how did that aid in your culinary journey?
Well, it's funny. I think you hit it right on the head with work ethic. Growing up on a farm and especially in Wisconsin, when you've got the seasonality changes of winter to spring to summer and dealing with all the elements. But you're outside doing stuff, from the time I was, 6 years old, I was out, I had responsibilities and chores to do and things like that. So, I mean, that has really, that's what I give the most credit for is my work ethic, and what I do. That's something that I really, put my head down and really do. I enjoy what I do and I enjoy work, but I also know how to do it well from those kind of experiences.
I understand you at first weren't really looking to go into culinary, but maybe wanted to be a math teacher. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true. Yeah. So, I was, so going back to when I was 13, my sister had gotten a job at a local restaurant in town, small town, Wisconsin. And one night the dishwasher didn't show up. So here I am at 13 years old. I get a phone call that they need a dishwasher. And so I started washing dishes and being in the kitchen at 13 years old, and so that was quite the experience and kind of understanding what that is and the work that goes into, the everyday, but that I still had, still certainly had chores to do when I got home afterwards, before and after. So, with that, then I, became a prep cook and kind of always worked in kitchens during high school. Went to college and wasn't really, thinking about, continuing, even though I still had, jobs in restaurants and everything else. I didn't really think that was my path and career. I love math and I really thought that was going to be, my direction. And, it took a semester of, one bad math class that kind of turned me off to that. And I really didn't want to go that way anymore. And so I had taken a semester off of college and kind of reassessed what I was doing and understood that I've been in kitchens since I was 13 and understanding the restaurant business. And so I decided to go to culinary school. And
that was at Purdue, correct?
So that went to culinary school in northern Wisconsin, actually I originally started at University of Wisconsin Eau Claire, so UW school in northern Wisconsin, and then after that, I went to culinary school, did a two-year program, associate's degree. During that time, I was kind of getting down to the end of my semester, and one of my roommates in college, his uncle owned a restaurant in Indiana, and I had to do an internship and went down there, and he said, yeah, come on board. So I was there for a summer and really just enjoyed what they did. They kind of took me in. It was kind of like, I still recognize them as my second family per se. It was a family owned restaurant and a third generation. And they really kind of took me in and kind of showed me the whole business, the back of the house, the front of the house, everything. And so I was already scheduled to go back to University of Wisconsin Stout because they had a really great hospitality program. and was going to head back there after I got done with my internship, and realized I just wanted to stay with these people and stay with this family that I've gotten to know over the last few months, and they brought me on and did that after. I did that with the owner of the restaurant, Russ Adams. He said, "Listen, you can stay here all you want." He said, "But in 12 months from now, if you're not back in college, well, then we're going to let you go." And I said, "Okay." So they really pushed me to get back to school, and then I ended up going to Purdue for hospitality restaurant management.
And that restaurant was in Valparaiso. That's Strongbow, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And then from Purdue, talk me through how you got from Purdue, and then you ended up as part of a team that built a sustainable 5-acre organic farm on campus, and that was Loyola U in Chicago.
Yeah. It's, crazy story. So I ended up after Purdue graduated, it became and still in Valparaiso, became banquet. I was executive banquet chef for them for a year. And then I told him, I said, "Listen, I want to know more about the restaurant." So I became a dining room manager there for another year, and kind of understand the front and back of the house of what goes on in the restaurant. And so, after that, I was kind of looking to kind of maybe get back towards home, and ended up in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and took a chef position at a resort there. And so I ended up back in that area. And a couple other jobs. After that, I ran a private golf country club, and that was in Woodstock, Illinois. So it's basically right over the border of Lake Geneva and Wisconsin. Ended up in Woodstock, and moved there, and took on. I was exec chef and general manager of a private country club. And, really, really great experience. I mean, you really understand in a private golf sense, you get to understand the members and likes and dislikes, and you become very, very humble in the restaurant atmosphere and understanding clientele and understanding what works and what doesn't work. And, so just a really great experience. And during that time, Loyola University had come out of the city. They were looking to, they had an opportunity to buy a piece of land. It was on a 100-acre property in Woodstock, and they bought the piece of land, and their whole idea was to, educate and bring people out of the city, to bring, students and faculty out of the city to kind of get them, acclimated in different aspects and, studying the sciences and studying different aspects of things. And of course, they needed somebody to run their food program there. And, at that time I was kind of, back and forth. And then I said, I don't really know if I want to, come into, kind of a college sense, kind of, feeding students and staff. I was more of a, high-end restaurant kind of, finer dining kind of thing. But, looking at it and going, all right, I'll do it for one reason. If you can build me, if I can build gardens out back, and we can grow as much food as we can, and we can build on the programming, I said, I'll do it. And that was their motto from the beginning, is to build this sustainable campus. And I hired a local gal that I knew that she was a farmer and had her own farming business. And we hired her, and we built a 5-acre organic garden on the property, with greenhouse and hoop house, and where it was able to, in the season, grow a ton of food. For what we needed. We set up a farmer's market that some of the students ran actually down in Chicago, that they would come and pick up the food and bring it down. And but it was all part of the programming with the students. So we were able to bring these students out of the city and really show them how things grow and how things move, and and the business side of agriculture. And in the meantime, I was left with the freshest vegetables known to mankind, sitting in my back door, to feed the students and faculty with, So that was a really, really cool experience.
That is awesome. And you're going to be one that can answer this question better than anybody I know. And I'm big into nutrition and fresh vegetables and stuff. When we talk about organic versus not organic, you growing up on a farm, being part of this, sustainable organic farm, basically for you, you've been around organic vegetables pretty much your entire life.
Yeah. It's funny. every time I would talk to my mother about growing, and she talks about organic, and she just laughs and she says, what is this organic stuff? She's like, that's the only way we grew growing up. There wasn't anything special. We weren't throwing Roundup on crops. We weren't doing that kind of stuff. We were physically going out and weeding by hand and putting in the labor to get the best vegetables we had. And that was just a way of life. So, it's funny. You say that, everybody makes a big deal about organic. It's like, that's the way I grew up,
And no difference. So, and the benefits of that from being at a young age and what it does now as a chef for sure. I mean, the difference just in quality and taste is not even comparable.
No, and that, I always bring up the story of, it's that, here we are in December and we're eating fresh tomatoes. Well, that tomato's not fresh, and you can taste it. When you get a summer tomato right off the vine, in July, and you bite into that, and that's what tomato's supposed to taste like, And so you kind of look at these things and go, oh man, I just can't wait for the growing season to come back. Well, I was talking to my chefs the other day. I had brought in some sweet corn, and here we are in April. We live in a world where we can get anything from across the globe at any point in time. And here we are, I've got fresh sweet corn, sitting, and it's okay, but it's not that Midwest, July, August style sweet corn that we're used to. And it just makes such a huge difference,
It's a big difference in taste.
Yeah.
Going forward. So you receive a call about Hell's Kitchen.
I did.
How'd they get your name, Chef?
I had been, I'd kind of interviewed for some other kind of TV stuff, not anything like that. More just like kids TV shows and things like that I've done a couple stints on just to, fill in. They need guest chefs and that kind of thing. So I think my name got kind of circled around and in that kind of mix. I ended up receiving a call from somebody on the casting team, wondering if I was interested, and my first reaction was, no, I don't really need that in my life. I'm, everything's good. And so I kind of told him no. And it just so happened that, the next day he was really trying to get me to come and interview. And it turns out that the next day I was going to be down in Chicago, with one of the farmers markets that we were doing with the kids. And so I was going to be down there anyway, and that's where they were holding the interviews. And so I went down there and did that at the same time and interviewed for the show. And they, I think it was that night or the next day, they called me back and said that they want to, they want to consider me for the show. And I said, okay, well, what does that mean? And so they had flown me out to LA, and we would, go through all the TV stuff and everything that they needed, background checks and all of that to get on, and got a call a couple weeks later and said they wanted me for the show.
Nice. So did you have a job at the time?
Well, yeah, I was still with Loyola University.
Okay. So you had to leave that. How long did they tell you were going to be gone for?
They didn't tell me. So the whole thing is they don't really tell you much at all. And so you just kind of go on a whim. And, I had told my people down, with Loyola that, this is kind of happening, and you can't say anything to anybody about it. They had to sign some paperwork in order to do that. But they were very, very supportive and gave me that time to be able to do that. I think I was gone for just about a month, a little bit after.
And then when you got there, Chef, did they seclude you guys before the actual show began?
So, basically you just get there. You don't really see anybody until the first day of shooting. And so it's just a constant, as soon as it starts, you're basically constantly on video the whole time. I mean, everything's being recorded.
Right. I mean, I've seen the show. And for those people that haven't, you need to tune in and check out Hell's Kitchen. It's basically hell on wheels. But
and I always tell everybody it's worse than you see it is.
I'll bet. And that's my next question is, what was it like for you off camera on the stuff that we don't even see that made the show?
It's just, I always say with reality shows, there's always a recipe, right? There's always a recipe is a personality that bring on a show. And not only that, but we're also in a room with a bunch of chefs, and and there's a lot of ego, and there's a lot of that kind of thing that goes on with with chefs in our industry, and it really is it really puts the scenario. It's an electric atmosphere. It's ever changing, ever evolving. People have highs, people have lows. Working in a restaurant is so difficult as it is, because you go through these changes every day, and nothing is the same, and everything is different. And so it's really, then that's our everyday. And so, we already have high emotional situations, through the course of a day in a high pressure kitchen that we're all kind of used to working in. And so to even bring that level up to the Gordon Ramsay level and do that, I mean, you have, there's a lot of highs and lows, and there's a lot more lows than there are highs.
And I was going to say, you had a tough start to begin with that competition. Was there any time early on where you're like, what did I get myself into? And maybe I should have kept saying no to this.
I think it was from day one to the last day of shooting. I don't think that ever changed throughout the entire filming. Yeah. I was saying that, I think that was my mentality, but I tried to keep my head down and try to stay as humble and understanding where I came from, and really just try to take one day at a time, and hope for the best and give it my best. And that's all I could do.
You were nominated 7 times for elimination. It was just a record. You're the biggest comeback chef in the history of the show. I just kind of want to get your thoughts when you kept coming up for nomination. Did it just seem like, okay, here we go again? Or each time you're like, okay, I'm going home?
Each time I thought I was going home. I mean, I remember a few of those times I had already packed my locker, and I just said, I just don't, I already packed my locker, and I said, okay, well, now today I'm going home, and there'd been a few of those days that I really, thought. There were some other times where I'm like, this is kind of silly,
Right.
But I remember a few of those times I'd already packed my stuff, folded my clothes, put them back in the bags, and said, okay.
And you just kept going on, and things started to change for you. And towards the end of that season, you win a reward to get yourself featured in Better Home and Garden.
Yeah.
And then you get this great fighter jet experience, which we'll get to in a second. But
yeah,
when you win that challenge and knew your dish was going to be featured, you were going to be featured in the magazine, give you a boost of confidence. What'd that feel like?
Absolutely. I mean, there, like I said, I mean, I'm going through the highs and lows. I mean, there was, there's those many little things that you get, along the way, those, wins of challenges, wins of this, wins of that. And so you have that. I mean, but then the very next day, it completely changes. So you can't really hold on to those moments for very long. You can after the show is done, and you kind of go back and think about them. But during the middle, everything is happening so fast that there really isn't any time to really reflect on, what that means for you.
How cool was that fighter jet experience?
It was pretty incredible.
How bad?
Yeah. No, it was pretty incredible. When I was a kid, a funny story. When I was a kid, I was back on the farm, and we knew a guy that had some Acrobat airplanes at the at a local airport in Wisconsin, and he used to take me up when I was probably 12 years old, and we used to go up and do all the stunts and do all that, and I used to fly with him and do kind of stuff. So that kind of brought back a lot of those memories of being up in the airplane, with this guy. And just having a blast. I mean, there's no better feeling than that. It's so cool.
For me, it looked frightening. Thoughts when you turn the handle and realize I just won this competition? Yeah.
Completely. Completely elated and overwhelmed by the experience of what that feels like. I have to say, from the whole experience, I was a little numb, not really knowing how to react. It probably took a couple of days for that to kind of sink in and kind of understand what that meant. So it definitely took a couple of days. I mean, it was a pretty grueling time there. Glad to be done with it. Still glad to be done with it. But all 100% rewarding all the way through. I mean, it gave me a lot of opportunities that I would have never had on so many levels, and so it's been fantastic.
One of the lines I remember from the show that you had said to your family is, "I can't wait to get back to being a normal life again." I mean, you could just tell that it was, and not just for you, but every competitor, it had worn on you guys,
sure.
you know, just going through everything. You're just ready to be done with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you basically, it's every day. The way I can best explain it is every day on the show, every day is like your first day in a new kitchen, you know, and it's a different experience. It's a different clientele. It's ever changing. You're not necessarily set up for success all the time. And it really, it's like, it is just like your first day in a brand new restaurant every day. You know, it's not like you get used to it. It's not like, it's not like, you know, it's okay. Now I'm 15 days in. Now I kind of understand what's going on. And it's none of that stuff. It's brand new every single day.
Throughout the whole competition, what did you learn or take from being around Chef Gordon Ramsay?
You know, that man's truly amazing. He is the most professional, most talented chef I've ever been around. He, you know, his drive and what he does, and, you know, alongside, you don't see that all the time in the shows, but his way of motivating people is better than I've ever seen. And he motivates, you know, different people in different ways, on throughout the entire experience. But he really is truly an amazing individual. And it is something else to be around him.
And one of the things that you win for being the champion is you get a head chef position at Gordon Ramsay's Pub and Grill in Caesar's Palace. Did you have a contract for how long you were going to have to stay with him, or was that completely up to you how long you wanted to stay?
So no, I got a year contract, with Caesars, and then worked out that year, and you know, amazing being around the Caesars Palace team and what they do and the amount of volume that they do, you know, every single day. You know, I mean, we were, you know, at that time we were pushing, you know, 1,500 people. Even 1,500 people a day through that restaurant. Wow. And so understanding what that is from 11 o'clock in the morning till, you know, 10 o'clock at night, understanding what that takes and what that takes as far as the team around you and just, you know, the simple fact of ordering food and having to, you know, and, you know, the prep list and things that have to get done every day to make a machine like that work, is truly amazing. And, you know, that's so much to the Caesars Palace team and of course Gordon Ramsay's team for getting everything set up and doing that. But I mean, it's an incredible machine that they run over there. And that's Caesars Palace. That's only one of them. You know, they have multiple throughout their entire property, that do that day in and day out. And so to understand what that is, and the learning, that you can go through to be able to do that, is pretty amazing.
Any input into menu items for yourself, or was it already done when you got there?
I mean, a lot of it was done when I got there, and then me and the other chef team, and we made tweaks along the way, to different stuff. Like we went through a menu change or two, when I was there that we all had put our input into, and just put out a great product, and, you know, at that high level.
Next thing I want to ask you, Chef, is from the time you win, how long do they give you to get yourself to Caesars? And being that you were in Illinois, what was it like for you the first time you got to Vegas?
Vegas is definitely, you know, of course, overwhelming. Especially, I truly had never been to Las Vegas until I moved out here. Isn't that funny? Everybody comes to Vegas. I had never been here before until I moved out here, and so to come out here and experience that, it's definitely overwhelming at first. You know, I was glad I was, you know, at the age I was. I think I'm glad I wasn't much younger, moving out to Las Vegas because that's just trouble. So I was able to, really, it was just concentrate on work, and a lot of days it was, go in, drive to Caesar's Palace, and then drive back home. And stuff like that along the way that it really was about the work and learning as much as I possibly could. While I was here, didn't know how long I'd be in Vegas. I was still, thinking I was going to move, work a year and then move back home. But really during that time, I really fell in love with the city, and I hired one of the best moves I ever did was because I was working, so much, 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, trying to, I wasn't doing myself any justice by not being able to get out and see what the city is. And so what I did was I hired a gal that handled all of my PR and public relations, and she's absolutely fantastic. It's Tyra with Ava Rose Agency. She is absolutely phenomenal. I still use her for any PR and stuff we do for restaurants or anything else. But she really gave me a boost to kind of understand who people are in this town and what they're doing and what's going on, and got me involved in a lot of things other than just work, and just really getting to know a lot of people out here that are just fantastic individuals and all in the business and just doing the amazing things that they're doing every day. And so it's so neat to be out here and have that experience as well, and not just coming out and working and leaving, and being able to understand the city a little bit.
Scott, what was your biggest obstacle / hurdle of walking into Caesar's Palace and being the head chef at Gordon Ramsay's Pub and Grill?
I guess just understanding the system, understanding how everything works. There's so many moving parts, that go into an operation. And that's staffing, and understanding the staffing and the staffing model and how that works. A lot of the hotels, including Caesar's Palace, are union, which is something I've never been around, is prevalent as it was. So understanding the union system and the laws that go into, employee and handling operations. And so I think that was definitely a bigger hurdle. Something I didn't, hadn't come from, so I didn't understand that at first. In having to manage through that, the sheer volume of what we do, understanding and putting the systems in place so that I could fundamentally, do things properly, and you have to understand there's a whole city underneath Caesar's Palace that supplies all the food and supplies all the ordering and supplies everything, that comes up from the basement, and so understanding what that is and understanding how to be able to manage through, an operation like that.
2016, you're the executive chef at Freedom Beat, a 24-hour restaurant in downtown Grand.
Yep.
Walk me through the process of how this whole thing came about for you.
So that's another. I'll lean that on to Tyra, one of my PR girls. So one of the some of the people that I got to meet while I was with her and with them was another restaurant consulting company and called 34th Floor Hospitality, and they were working on a project with the Downtown Grand Hotel. And it was this Freedom Beat restaurant, and they showed me the concept and what they were looking to do, and I loved the concept. And it was basically the food portion of the concept was really, first of all, a feel good place, based on music, based on a lot of fun. But the food program, they wanted to be Freedom Beat all Americana, so they wanted everything from everything available from the East Coast, West Coast, to the South, to some Midwest. Kind of a little sampling of everything on the menu, because that's what we were. And so I met up with these guys, and they were looking for somebody to kind of handle the food programming end of things. And so I was able to be hired on to do that and put together the put together the menus for them and really have some fun with food. And it was just a fun project, and just a lot of fun. And the Downtown Grand team is fantastic, and what they do in the hotel is fantastic too. I mean, it's great what they're doing down there. Unfortunately now with the scenario, it's a little bit different story, but it'll come back, and but the hotel is fantastic. The team is great. But it was just a really fun project to work on.
Piggyback what you're saying. People are listening and you haven't been to Downtown Grand when you come to Vegas, you got to check it out. I call it a hidden gem.
Yeah.
You go to Fremont Experience, and if you don't venture off that one road, you'd never see it. But if you just venture off a little bit and go down, you might be surprised, because it's a fun little place for sure. And you definitely got to check out Freedom Beat. Chef, where did the idea originate for ECM?
So, my business partner and I, Antonio Nunez, he's been a local chef here in town. And him and I, the way we first met, was we were doing a fundraising event. And it was a chef challenge at McDonald's when McDonald's was doing their, 24-hour breakfast campaign. They hired us to do, or they didn't hire us. So we did a fundraising event for charity, and so we got paired up against each other to have a chef competition using McDonald's ingredients, and so we went into we showed up at the kitchen at McDonald's and went through their coolers and grabbed what they had and utilized their ingredients and put our own spin on a 24-hour breakfast recipe idea, and it was fun. The only problem was, you walk into McDonald's and you're a regular chef and you know how to turn the gas on a stove, and you've got burners and saute pans. Well, no, everything is digital. So I had to have help from the people that are there. I'm like, how does this thing work? I have no idea. So anyway, we got paired up together, or we got paired up against each other for the chef competition, and did this all for charity, and it was a lot of fun. But got to meet each other and love what both of each other were doing. And really kind of sat down and kind of formed this concept to have a restaurant consulting business that going into restaurants and kind of helping out, whether it's the front of the house, because we both have experience with staff training and models that work and things like that. If somebody has an idea for a restaurant, that they're looking to do, but aren't necessarily, involved, that we can kind of help them through those hurdles, to kind of make these things happen. And so that's where the whole thing come on, because we do everything from the design work, to either construction, if need be, that we have another business partner that does that as well. And really can kind of take something from nothing and make something great, or just kind of help out in different areas where they see trouble areas, that we can kind of come in and help circumvent that kind of thing.
And that same goes on the lines with BLT Foods too, right?
BLT Foods is the thing. I'm not running that any longer. That was a concept that we kind of developed to kind of get fresh food out to Las Vegas at a kind of a meal planning program. And we did well for a couple years. But the competition is just really, really fierce in that segment of the business, and so we had separated with that. Somebody else had taken over BLT Foods for us, which is great, and have changed that into something else now. But that was just kind of a fun project to work on.
In 2017, you joined the Hospitality Alliance, which is a leading consultancy and management company made up of experts and influencers in the food and beverage industry. I mean, it includes things all over the place. I mean, the Mayfair in LA, Downtown Grand, as we spoke about, in Las Vegas, Lake Las Vegas, which we're going to hit to, and then even last Friday, which is an event once a week in Henderson. What was were you asked to join? Or was that something you wanted to be part of?
Hospitality Alliance started with another restaurant consulting company called Kelly Jones Hospitality, and Kelly's been around Vegas for a long time. In fact, he's done some really great projects here in Vegas, and they have a national program with Hospitality Alliance, and basically they kind of can go into hotels and bigger establishments and kind of get things started. And that was a fun project that I worked on with them. Was the Mayfair Hotel in downtown LA. It was an older hotel, completely revamped. And so I did the entire menus operations and training for the kitchen, for a restaurant that was called Eve, that was in the hotel. And that's, of course, being outside of Vegas, is a neat thing. And then being downtown LA, completely different clientele, completely different model to work on. So a great learning experience at the same time. But just again, going back to just having fun with food and great ingredients and putting these together to make people happy.
And you just said something I always say: you have to have fun with food. Food is fun. Food includes family. Food includes friends.
Yeah.
Everything is usually done over food. So
yeah,
and I don't know anybody who doesn't like food.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, where does everybody congregate in the house? You got a whole group of people over. Everybody ends up congregating in the kitchen.
Yep.
At some point in time, that's where everybody goes, and that's where all the conversations happen. That's where all the fun is happening. And and food is just fun. Food is amazing. I mean, we vote we're able to vote 3 times a day with our fork.
Right.
And it's a pretty amazing thing. And people are in need of that constantly. So it's fun. I like I said again, I love what I do. I'm very lucky to be where I am and just enjoying cooking the food.
Now you're the executive chef as well at Lake Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
How did they bring you out there, and what was the outlook for you when they brought you in?
So Lake Las Vegas, of course, went through some hard times, in 2008, 2009, when everything kind of took a downturn, and it was one of the hardest hit area even here in Vegas. And there was a company that came in and kind of bought up a lot of what was going on, and that was a company called Raintree, and got to meet them. Going back to when I first moved out here, I think I was out here for a few months, and then I did a staycation, just took a couple days, and went out to Lake Las Vegas and really just kind of walked around and took a look at what was going on out there. And I'm like, this place is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's absolutely breathtaking about what a hidden gem this is in Las Vegas. You don't even feel like you're in Las Vegas. You feel like, you could be anywhere, and it's on its own oasis, and and the lake, and I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. And so through a few different people, I was able to meet with a couple of the executives with Raintree Corporation, and kind of trying to get their vision of what they were looking to do. And their whole idea kind of took me back to Wisconsin and the Midwest, where what we're trying to do is we're trying to build community, and we're trying to build a sense of community out here, and kind of, get, the residents that are out here and more people that are coming out to move out here. We really want them to have, a sense of community, and just like we were just talking, I mean, there's no better sense of community than the dinner table. There's no better sense of community than doing it with food and understanding what that is. And so meeting with them and kind of, going over, my background and what I've done and what's important to me is kind of bringing that back and bringing, the food aspect back, which is so important. And we do a lot of that with the events and stuff we do now. But so they had brought me out there to first over kind of take a look at Reflection Bay and the golf area, but then that kind of expanded into the Lake Las Vegas Sports Club that they had built out there, and then assisting with Seasons Market, which is a market and a deli that we put in Lake Las Vegas. So kind of having these different entities of food that we can take, kind of help take care of the community out there. And with Reflection Bay, it's kind of the backbone of what we do. And I don't know if you've ever been to Reflection Bay Golf and Beach Resort, but it's completely stunning. It's one of the best golf courses I've ever been on, including out here in Las Vegas. But the the views and the golf and what we do with events and weddings and things like that. I mean, there really is truly not a better place here in Vegas that I have seen, to host anything that you're looking to do. So, it was great to be part of that, kind of rehash the food program out of Reflection Bay to start, turn that into kind of building events and building more community events that people get involved in. We've done food and wine festivals out there now, and music programs and things like that really people are able to come out and really enjoy Lake Las Vegas. And that's just a fun place to be.
I will second that. Reflection Bay is absolutely gorgeous. It's my favorite course in Vegas. And for those people looking to come into Vegas, you got to get out to Lake Las Vegas. It's worth an Uber ride to get out there, or however you can get out there. Yeah. You're going to love it. And if you haven't tried Chef's food, you need to, because it's remarkable. Every time I go out there, it's fantastic. The festivals are excellent. So if you're looking for something to build a trip around to Vegas, pull up Reflection Bay, Lake Las Vegas, go to the events page, find out when they're having these food and wine festivals. Trust me, you will not be sad you went. You'll be glad you did. Chef, last question for you. And I asked some people to give me what they would like me to ask you. And the number one thing I got back was, can he give us some tips on pairing food with wine?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite things to do.
Okay.
So normally what I do, and I kind of do things backwards. A lot of chefs will go ahead and they'll put a menu together, and then they will go ahead and pair wines with the food. Now, I like to do it the opposite way. I like to taste the wine first, kind of understand what's going on with the wine. So, I usually sit down with a notepad, and so let's say I want to serve 2 wines with dinner.
Okay.
So I want to do a white and a red. So I'll sit down, I'll taste the white wine, and I'll sit down with a pad of paper, and I'll say, okay, what kind of flavors are in there? And it's like, if you're tasting a good buttery Chardonnay, then it's like, it's butter. It's kind of fatty. I taste some apricot in there. Oh, I taste some pear in there. Different things. If you're having a Sauvignon Blanc, you're going to get, maybe some more mineral kind of flavors and some more. So what I do is kind of try to dissect that, and I put a menu together around that. So if I've got a Chardonnay that's real buttery, and I know what that's going to do, so then I'll do like more like an acidic style of dish. So I'll do maybe a fish with like a lemon sauce or a lemon caper sauce. That has a little bit of butter in it, but then when you taste those together, you've got the different contrasts of like, you've got the acid, you've got the tartness, and then you have the sweetness and the buttery of the wine. So, that's kind of one example of, a quick example of, how to explain that. And then if you have like a red wine and you have like those deep, a California Cabernet, which is like over the top, like berry and fruit forward and things like that. You can either pair that up with, a good steak with maybe a sauce that has maybe a little bit of that fruit in it. So a sauce that maybe has, a beef sauce that maybe has a little bit of blackberry, has a little bit of cherry, something that's in the wine as well. Always works. You'll never be disappointed if you match up some of the flavors you taste in the wine and then put them in your food as well. And it's a nice balance. But with wine, the biggest thing I always say is drink what you like to drink. There's no expert out there that's going to tell you exactly what and how to taste. It's how you taste, and it's what you like, and just enjoy whatever that is.
You just gave everybody a free ticket to drink more wine before dinner.
100%. Yeah.
Chef, thanks so much for taking time and being on the show. Great. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Thanks so much.
You bet. Everybody, make sure that you go check us out on the website, beforethelightspod.com. And if you want to send us an email, go to the contact page. Show notes will be there as well. Thanks you for listening to Before the Lights. I'm Tommy Canale. We will talk to you next time.